Fellas, it's time. We finally getting that animal support. We are moving up in the world. I'm genuinely excited that we're finally getting a dedicated animal buffer and resistance shredder. It's been such a long time since I was actually genuinely excited for a 4-star. Remember to sub and like if you enjoyed to help this channel reach 2k subs soon. Thanks, I greatly appreciate it. As a Xiao main, one of the main problems that really stood out is not having a dedicated support on your team. Anima was never really meant to be the main DPS element. It never had the reactions to do that. Swirl is great and all, but you're mainly using it because it shreds resistance. It does good damage, but it's not the main source. Xiao and soon-to-be Skara are meant to be raw Animo damage main DPS. Their main source of damage is Animo. You can make them work as an enabler, but their kit doesn't really fit into that, and there are just better options like Sucrose. Xiao has high multipliers for a reason, and I would assume Skara will as well since there's not really any sort of EM scaling in their kit. All of this is kind of a problem. Having high multipliers is nice and all, but there aren't really many ways to actually buff Animo damage or decrease resistances. With no reactions to do so, it gets very limited. The only achievable way to decrease Animo res is either Zhongli or Animo Traveler, and you can already guess which one's better. The only way to buff Animo damage was through artifact stats. And yeah, that's literally it. Unless I'm forgetting something? Anyways, Faruzan gives us access to all of this. She is the Animo support. Casting her skill will allow her next charge shot to decrease Animo resistance of the enemies affected by the shot. Seems very familiar. When she uses her burst, it will buff Animo damage for all party members and will also decrease the resistance of those hit by the burst. On top of that, if an Animo-infused attack does damage, Faruzan will give more Animo damage percent depending on her base attack. Even though she's going to be a niche unit, I don't think it should be to anyone's surprise that she will be pretty good at what she does, because she's literally the only character that does all of this within her base kit. I would much rather have a niche character that is very good at only one thing over a character that is okay at everything. This is also the reason why I think Goro was the most recent 4-star that was actually good, because even though he doesn't have any use outside of the team he was meant for, at least he is the best option for that. And I can feel somewhat confident to say the same thing about Faruzan. However, I have some concerns. I'm wondering how long Faruzan's buffs and debuffs will last, because if they don't last long enough or refresh over time for Skara or Xiao to take advantage of, then what's the point, right? If her buffs don't last long enough, then rotations will have to be cut short, and that's not preferred for characters like Xiao or Skara, because they both have a lot of field time to do their own source of damage, and if you just switch too early, you're just wasting their damage. Since the buffs don't last long enough, they will also have to cut short to start collecting energy for the entire party, and you will have to start all over again. Speaking of energy, I'm hoping that her burst won't be too expensive, because from what we saw in the game footage, it seems like she will only generate 2 Animo particles after using her special charge shot, and depending on the cooldown of her burst, I think it causes a few problems for the rotation if it does cost a lot. The good thing is that the buff will depend on her base attack, so instead of raising her attack stat entirely, it will be a good idea to build it an energy recharge, assuming nothing else in her kit will depend on her entire attack stat. The last thing I hope is that Faruzan isn't a constellation-dependent character, which I don't think will happen because her kit already seems like it does a lot on the surface, but it could happen, who knows. The reason why Sara just isn't that great is that her buffs didn't last long enough and she just didn't really feel great to use. If you didn't have C2 or C6, she felt really clunky and won't feel so impactful because you're missing out on a 60 crit damage that she provides with C6. And if you don't have C2, you're gonna have to use the charge shot for her rotation. Yeah, you can see where I'm concerned, right? And since Faruzan's skill works very similarly to Sara, I'm hoping that Faruzan won't be as constellation dependent as she is. I doubt that my concerns will be as bad as they sound, but I really want a very good dedicated support for Animo DPS because they are my favorite. I just want the best, you know? And as a Xiao main and soon-to-be Skara haver, hopefully, I hope that Faruzan will be the best she can possibly be, because I've been waiting for a character like this for a very long time. Remember to sub and like if you enjoyed, help the channel reach 2k subs soon, I would really appreciate it guys. I'll be doing my Skara and Faruzan polls live when they do come out, so feel free to drop by. Have a good night and day wherever you're at, and I'll see you all next time. Peace, and take care.